Welcome to the NHL, Rory Kerins. Welcome to Afterburner, friends. The Calgary Flames rip it up in Chicago for a sloppy, choppy, and wildly entertaining tilt against the Blackhawks. 5-2 the final for Calgary. I'm Cami. He's Ryan. Thanks to Bet365 for making this show possible. Code Nation to get started. And, you know, the deal Super Chat is on tonight. You can hit that little dollar sign in the live chat. Our Super Chat charity partner this season, it's Youth Centers of Calgary. So if you want to make sure that we steer away from whatever we're talking about to talk about what you want to talk about, hit us with that. Your comment will get pinned. It'll stay up longer depending on how much you spend. And obviously supporting Youth Centers of Calgary, a place where kids are welcome and accepted as they are, a place where they get to have a break from the chronic stress that is the reality of a lot of lives and flourish through connection and fun. That was fun. Calgary is 6-3-1 in their last 10 to hop Vancouver into that second wild card spot, at least temporarily. It's a season sweep of Connor Bedard and the struggling Blackhawks. And first 4-goal game since the last time Calgary saw Chicago. But there's a lot of good places to start, Pike. But I think we're going to start with the reason why Calgary is in the position they are, and that is the kids. Rory Kerins, NHL debut, 12 seconds into his first shift, making an impact.
At the age of 30, but they have a plethora of good young defensemen here and on the way up. The Flames cross. Pelletier shot. He scores! Jacob Pelletier! Right out of the chute. 18:46 left to go.
Yeah, a nice little play there. We're so used to seeing, these young bucks score goals in the American League. We saw, if you've been following the Calgary Wranglers, you've probably seen quite a few Rory Kerins goals and assists this year. 34 in 34 games he has for points. And his first shift in the National Hockey League, not a bad way to start.
You know, the only thing I like seeing more than Rory Kerins at the top of the AHL goals leaderboard is the nice fat X next to his name, inactive NHLer. And he had another. He was huge tonight. What did you make of his debut? Even if he didn't get those assists, what would you have made of how he fit into the lineup?
Outside of the obvious training camp number, you wouldn't really have known that this was his first game. He's only 22. About 18 months ago, 20 months ago, he was playing in Rapid City, South Dakota with the Rush. There was points last season where he had affectionately called James Neal syndrome, where if he wasn't scoring, he wasn't extremely useful for the Wranglers, and he sat as a spectator for the playoffs. He was healthy through the playoffs. He played one playoff game because the details of his game simply weren't there when he wasn't scoring. And this game, he was making smart plays in all three zones. He had a stretch where the Flames were nursing a multi-goal lead, and he made smart plays, went into the offensive zone, dumped at the blue line, went to the bench for a change, got it deep. He did a lot of things that would make a coach like Ryan Huska, who gave him a chance over can we just say, or is it fair to say struggling Andrei Kuzmenko, or is that an understatement? And Andrei Kuzmenko, who needs to play more like
Rory Kerins. Give him a bless
Kerins.
His heart. That's what we'll give him.
He's trying. Bless his heart, he's trying. But a guy who seemed to be trying and did a lot of good things tonight was Rory Kerins. And, they're in a back-to-back, and, they have one extra forward who was Kuzmenko this evening. I don't know if you make a lot of changes in just going to St. Louis tomorrow, but we'll see what they do.
No,
but
you want to see you talk about goalies, ride the hot hand. Why would you ever pull someone out after they have a game like that? And this was a bomb you dropped early in the day. The 15th player selected in the 6th round of the NHL draft to play a game for the Flames franchise, and just like some perspective of how hard it is to get into any lineup. He is 22 years old, a 6th rounder. Earlier in the season, Justin Kirkland was like the long shot story, making his debut in his mid-20s and getting his first goal at 28. He was a 3rd rounder. That's an insane climb for Kerins, from one like real breakout season with Sue in the OHL, like 118 points or something like that in 60 odd games from the ECHL to here. And he doesn't even need waivers. This is like playing with house money, or like it's like you're at the casino and someone gives you some chips and you win enough to get a very nice steak dinner with lobster.
So
That's what it is.
The big story with Rory Kerins was he was in the third group at Flames training camp. He got 0 preseason games. To the best of my knowledge, I don't think he's dressed for any NHL preseason games since the Flames drafted him. And in their defense, his performance as a pro up until this year probably didn't merit it. He was a guy who, all due respect, had struggled to adjust to the pro game. And he was basically faced with, if he had one more sort of unremarkable year, he probably wouldn't have gotten a qualifying offer come June. And to his credit, he, I think, read the tea leaves and worked his ass off this offseason. He came into camp, by all accounts, in remarkably good shape, did everything was asked of him, went down to the Wranglers. He was only the first line center for the Wranglers because Justin Kirkland got called up early in the season when Kevin Rooney got hurt in Vancouver. And so Kerins basically made it impossible for them to take him off that top line. And then he made it impossible for them not to call him up. So, just in terms of, remarkable stories, I mean, he went from being, I don't even think it's unfair to call him an afterthought in the Flames organization 12 months ago, even 6 months ago. And now he's a guy who we're talking about. They played in a pretty tough building in Chicago. The Flames have, even when the Chicago Blackhawks have not been good, they've laid plenty of eggs in the Chicago area, playing in that building with that damn goal song that just mocks you when you get scored on. And Rory Kerins was arguably the story in a game where the Flames ran Chicago's show for, I'd say, 85% of the game.
It also kind of continues this grand tradition that we've seen the last while, when I think for years, Flames fans have been screaming, play the kids, play the kids, play the kids. And now they have. And Pospisil, point in his first game. Zary, heal up soon. Point in his first game. Kerins.
Goal in his first game. That was a hell of a goal, too.
Yeah, it was a great goal, actually. But it's just, it's kind of funny that it's going to prove Craig Conroy's point, seeing him come on as a guest at intermission and talking about Kerins. I mean, like, I wanted to see the kids play. I think he looked a little bit surprised that it panned out that well that quickly. We'll see how it carries over into these next couple games against St. Louis, should we see him remain in the lineup. But the kids are just getting this done, and I think he was the story tonight. Pelletier, a huge part of the story tonight with his first multi-goal game. It was also kind of nice that Dustin Wolf didn't need to be your best player tonight. Yeah. Granted, he wasn't tested that much, but
I mean, the third period, I don't think he faced a shot in the first 10 minutes. But
he had a great save at the end, though. That crazy paddle save. I didn't even know how he got that.
And the weird thing was, like, the thing I love about Ryan Huska is he will call a spade a spade. He does not want to dress things up when he doesn't need to. He was asked after the LA game, about the team's resiliency in the first period, and his answer was, it wasn't the group, it was Wolf. And there's been plenty of cases, how many times has a team wearing a Red Sea had kind of an unremarkable first 10, 15, sometimes 30 minutes of a hockey game, and by the time they get their act together, they're down by 2 or 3 or 4 goals, and oh no, okay, game's over. Mm-hmm. The Flames, at least, they've, especially with one guy, they've shown an ability to get their act together after getting a few stops. And they have a guy, Jacob Markstrom, for all his strengths as a goaltender. I think Ryan Pinder's big bugaboo with him was, that was first shot goals. First shot always seemed to go in. I think there was one point where we started tracking the stat, and Markstrom led the league in first shot goals against. Dustin Wolf does not. Dustin Wolf is far from that metric. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're talking 42 games in that the Calgary Flames have won half their games. And even the games that they haven't won, I don't think they really had their show run more than a handful of times this season. And given the odds makers had the Flames 6th from last for Stanley Cup odds at the beginning of the season, they were a long shot to make the playoffs. They're probably, I think, if you could put money down on the Flames being in a playoff spot at this point of the season, you probably would have gotten pretty long odds. You would have made some decent coin if that's something you could bet on. But here they are, and I don't think that it's unearned.
We've seen a lot about the Flames quarter century team this week. If it was 25 plus 1, if you had one more season of Dustin Wolf, does he take over Markstrom's spot on the second team next to Sit next to Mr. Craig Conroy on that depth chart. And Dion.
Dion. It's a conversation. I mean, there's been plenty of,
we didn't get that much of Markstrom.
I'll tell you this. I mean, Big Save Dave was also a story for a season and then kind of came back to earth a bit. So, I mean, I understand the hesitancy. I think the Athletic just recently put out goalie tier rankings. They had Wolf in the lowest tier. And even with that, their big caveat was he's really good, but it's only been like 40 games, which, yeah, okay. Yeah, I get it. But once you get to 80
what makes
games,
you think he's gonna stop?
we heard the story in the Western League. Oh, he's taking over for Carter Hart. It's going to be a drop off. Oh, we had a good first year, but there's going to be a drop off. Oh, the Western League is going to figure him out. Oh, he's going to go pro and they're going to figure him out. Okay, his second pro year, they're going to figure him out. Okay, once the NHL is going to figure him out, and we're at the point now where you try to throw bodies and tips in front of him and do your best to take away his eyes. And the book is out on him, and his goals against is still pretty tidy. So,
yeah, it's great too. I think that moves him up to 15, 6-2. I broke it down between playoff versus non-playoff teams kind of as of today. 4-1-2 versus playoff teams, 11-5 versus non-playoff teams. Both those OT losses against the playoff teams, both against the Bruins. We know this, but sure, maybe like a little more sheltered in his starts. Like we talked about it, death, taxes, and Dan Vladar getting the second half of the back-to-back, but he's been holding them in there against good teams. There were some strong saves he had to make tonight, and actually Mrazek had to be really sharp tonight too.
I think we were talking about it before we went on. I feel kind of bad for Peter Mrazek. Yeah. I think there's a couple of Blackhawks I kind of feel bad for.
That's a ragtag group. I feel bad for Taylor Hall. I feel kind of bad for
you look at that
Peter
blue
Mrazek.
Line.
I feel pretty okay for Bedard. I mean, did you think you were going to stop him when he's sitting on .99? No.
You look at that blue line, though, and it's like that scene in Major League where you're like, who the hell are these guys? I mean, there's a couple of names I remember. I'm like, Seth Jones, okay, that's where you went. But a lot of the other guys in the team, I'm like, ooh, all right. Enjoy it while it lasts.
Actually, I got to talk to Alan when they were here the first time this season when they were practicing out at Winsport. He played against Bedard for Bedard's first WHL game. And I try to like bring it up gently. I'm like, do you remember playing against him the first time? He's like, he rinsed me like twice in a game. I was like -3. He reminded me already. It was actually pretty funny. But yeah, it's a little hard scrabble there for the Blackhawks. But honestly, I'm not that down about the Flames demolishing a not great team. How many years have we seen them be unable to close out those kinds of matches and miss playoffs because of it? Because you and I talked before we turned this on,
the bubble
season. If Calgary could beat Ottawa, 3 times?
Because they played them 10 times and just I think they
could not get
below
past
500.
the Senators. Yeah. If you could close out against bad teams, there are years where we would have had playoff hockey in Calgary. So these ones are important. It could be the difference at the end of the season when they've missed. We do look back at those awful games where there were a few games like I think Columbus and St. Louis where they got booed one year. It's like those games could have been the difference. And tonight kept it alive. Sorry, Team Tank.
I've got a stat for you. And Team Tank, cover your ears. According to Natural Stat Trick, amongst goaltenders in the National Hockey League with 20 or more appearances, Dustin Wolf is first in 5-on-5 save percentage. He is ahead of Hellebuck, Gustafsson, Talbot, Kemper, Thompson, everyone. There's literally no goaltender who's better at 5-on-5 amongst the 20-plus games club than obscure child Dustin Wolf, who still looks like he just wandered in from the mall and said, "Hey, you guys want me to play goalie? Oh, okay. Can we go get ice cream later?" He can have all the ice cream he wants. He's been playing exceptionally well.
Prince of Calgary. I hope we see him around at every event over the summer again. He was everywhere. Stamps games, basketball games over at Surge.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if someone sees him on the berm at a Dogs game next year.
I was texting with some of the organization when I saw him at an event on Princess Island. The nice thing was, Calgary fans, shout out to you guys. You're very respectful. You have a reputation as being fans in the market that do not badger people when they're out in public with their loved ones, which good on you. You're respectful. I was joking with the person I was texting with. This might be his last year of being anonymous. I don't think he'll be able to walk around in crowds in Calgary without people asking for photos or autographs or high fives anymore. I mean, they'll still be respectful, but I think his days of being an anonymous face in the crowd are basically done.
Sad. Just kidding. Not so much. Other side of the puck, goals. Finally. Oh my God. Fourth time this season, Calgary has scored 5 or more. Again, most recently was against the Hawks. The other 2 times were the first 2 wins of the season against Vancouver and Philly. And Calgary hasn't won 3 in a row since November when they were on a 4-game heater. This was so needed. This got so many people off the schneid. That was good for Sharangovich. It was good for Bean to get his second. And Pelletier just looks like he's having so much fun out there. A little sad that Kerins did not earn the gentle helmet kiss, but he got the near noogie, which is also nice. We'll need to build a scale.
The last time that Yegor Sharangovich scored a goal in a hockey game, I'm still scrolling, December 3rd against Columbus. So he has been, I wouldn't even say quiet. He's been trying. He's been visible. He's been buzzing. And then he was just finding ways to not score. And I mean, I don't think his shorthanded goal was a nice move. I don't think he intended to sort of bounce it the way he did into the net. But
no, definitely meant it. Definitely. I mean, he'll never say that it was a mistake.
Along the boards.
Oh, look at this.
Sharangovich will get it out. A steal. Jonathan Huberdeau shorthanded. Sharangovich cradles it. He scores! That's hockey,
nice
baby!
If only Jonathan Huberdeau was a center, then he'd get selfie consideration. He's having a hell of a year too. In all the hubbub, I don't think we're giving Huberdeau his due and proper, but just it's a good play on both those guys. We've seen Huberdeau play on the penalty kill quite a bit, and he's been very good at the penalty kill. Is he Michael Backlund good? No, but he's earned
a place there. That's not nothing.
He's in the rotation and he's setting stuff up, and I think it makes the team a little bit more dangerous because if what the Flames used to do is it used to be Mangiapane and whoever else was around on that third forward unit.
Another good late round find.
You got the tired power play guys, and they're like trying to do dumb stuff with the puck because they're tired and it's late. And they're going, oh, the clock's going down. We got to get something on that. And then you get those. I think the Flames for a while they led the lead at one point for last 30 seconds of power play shorthanded goals, and that major penalty, which we'll get to.
Yeah,
that major penalty had the potential, and we've seen this movie before with this group. Had the potential to be the Flames starting to step on rakes, and then it gets away from them entirely.
I thought it was going to be for sure. We had Bedard scored quite quickly into it, and then it was 20 seconds later they rang one off the iron.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, they're going to get eaten.
You could hear the thoughts of all the Flames fans going, "Oh boy, Team Tank's going to get what they want. They're going to let one get away." And then they got that goal, and Chicago had nothing after that.
Nothing. And to your point about the way Huberdeau's been playing, one thing that I've really liked, and maybe there's not really necessarily the number to support it, but we've talked before about how it felt like they were just putting him out on special teams, just wishing something was going to happen. It feels like there's so much more intention, not just to his game, but the units that he's out there with, where it's like, no, they're not just slinging the puck thinking around, maybe something will develop. There's very much intention behind what they're doing. We think this is going to create a good opportunity. And more often than not now, it's working out for them, and it's resulting in these shorthanded opportunities and a little more success on the power play. Didn't necessarily see it tonight, but there we are. But now is probably as good a time as any to dig into that hit. The timing, not great at all. We're going to take a look at the video of it here.
But it wasn't good either.
Yeah, there were some
so boarding 5 in a game on Taylor Hall. Not awesome.
Not great. We've seen some. Let's put it this way. I will never question Martin Pospisil's effort. He's obviously trying to be engaged physically. He hasn't gotten points in a while, but he's always noticeable, often for good reasons. And this is the kind of game where your situational awareness needs to kind of take over.
It's 4-1. It's 4-1 at this point.
I mentioned earlier, Rory Kerins, coach probably loved him because once the Flames got like a multi-goal lead, Rory Kerins was like, all right, let's not do anything stupid here. Let's just get to the blue line, dump it in, go for a change. Let's rinse and repeat.
Hopefully they pull the goalie at some point. We're going to tee Pelts up for that hat trick.
Still waiting. But you can sort of see what the coaches would think about that, and you can probably go, yeah, okay, that's good for you. You figured out your NHL game, up 3 goals in a tough building. You didn't want to do anything silly. Martin Pospisil, I don't think has an off switch. I think he plays as intensely in a playoff game in any level of hockey as he would in a rec league game. He is that guy, and being that guy is why he's in the National Hockey League. He's managed to really utilize his physical gifts in a way that's really beneficial for his hockey team most of the time. This was not one of those times, and as a result, the Flames are in a situation where they were up 3 goals in a tough building. They get a early power play goal from a player that you do not want to give the puck too often with the man advantage. You want to give him the puck at 5-on-5. So there was a big opportunity for Chicago to really get back into this one. And plus, then the shorthanded goal happened, but it's I don't think that Martin Pospisil will be getting any kind of supplemental discipline, but I do think it's the kind of thing where someone from hockey ops or someone from player safety, calls the team, be like, can you just tell him to calm it down a little bit? Because he's developing a reputation, and not a great one. Other teams,
it's not quite Matt Rempe, but it's not great.
He can actually play hockey, so he's not Matt Rempe, but he's got some
Matt
challenges.
Rempe is still better than 100% of the players you've ever played against.
Oh, guaranteed. I can tell you stories about Brian McGrattan making me look like, well, Brian McGrattan makes most people look like children on the ice, but he made me especially look very inept. But yeah, it's Pospisil. He's so good most of the time, and maybe just have to live with 4 or 5 times a year that you look at what he's doing and you just sort of bury your face in your hands and go, oh, buddy, come on, man, come on, you didn't need to do that. But he's also the kind of guy that he's on your team because if you're playing the Oilers or the Canucks or LA or Vegas, and potentially you're playing after April 17th and there's more on the line, maybe you want that kind of gristle in your game.
Gristle?
Gristle.
It's a little fat to chew on. That's nice. But it's unfortunate too, because it's like you don't want to throw him on the bench to teach him a lesson, because he's been a huge part of that top line and making it work.
Yeah, again, he doesn't get a lot of points, but if you gave points for screens for
Who cares?
Would you
give up Martin Pospisil having more points to get Jonathan Huberdeau going?
Oh yeah,
currently on his best goal scoring season of his career.
There's a reason why one guy's making $1 million and one guy's making 10.5, and that's the offensive upside for one of them is much higher than the other one, but the physical tools of one is meant to open up space for Kadri and Huberdeau. And I would say, that's been, outside of maybe the Backlund line, that's been probably the most consistent line this year in terms of being able to do stuff that helps the team win games. So, I guess you have to live with that. Is that just sort of
Is he the 2011 Alex Burrows of the Calgary Flames?
I mean, he's got a little Furland in him too. I mean, he's got that thing where, players and other teams, fan base and other teams just have been and probably will in the future be frothing at the mouth at just the mere existence of Martin Pospisil in an NHL game, especially if he breathes. We saw the last time Chicago was in town. We saw Pospisil absolutely, he parked Connor Bedard with a clean hit. He parked Frank Nazar, I think in his second or third NHL game, with a clean hit. Both the times crowds formed, both the time, I think at least one of the times the Flames got a power play out of it. I think they might have scored a power play goal off of a power play.
I just wonder why he hasn't found the line yet, because he has been hit with a supplemental discipline. We saw the 3-game suspension. We've heard Huska say, yeah, he's got to learn where that line is. I just wonder why he hasn't found it yet, because it seems like he should know where it is by now.
Yeah, he's played, 100 games? 100 something? Close to it. I think. Yeah,
100 more than you and I
103?
ever will. Yeah, he had
103,
points in that
104?
game. Yeah, he had a. Sorry, both had points in that
105.
game 100.
This is game 105 for him. So, I mean, maybe this is just what he is now. For better or for worse, this might be what he is.
Is he all right? I guess this is Pospisil, warts and all.
But hey, I mean, he's probably going to play in the Olympics. So, I mean, I'll say this, Marty, if you're listening, thank you for listening. Please don't throw those kind of hits in the Olympics. The IIHF hates them much more than the NHL does, and they possibly will throw you out of the game for a clean hit or a hit that would be clean in an NHL game.
And also never change the visor.
Oh, goodness, no.
I think it's awesome.
Goodness, no.
Yeah, so good. Other young guy in the game, Pelletier, we saw his first, he scored his second, two goals on 11 shots.
What number does he have? What number does he wear? 2-2? Hold on.
I don't know. What's his number again? I can't believe you didn't take that. I can't believe you didn't take the Daryl bait.
Good for him, though. That was a hell of a game.
You didn't like that?
I was trying to tee you up.
All right.
We didn't go over our bits before the show, guys.
No.
Hell of a game for him, though. I mean, I'll say this one. Kind of a nice, a really subtle show of confidence from the coach, putting him initially last game with Sharangovich and Kuzmenko, because of the three guys, there's probably one guy you can point at and go, I bet you he's going to be the responsible one. But he played that role in the American League throughout his career. He wasn't as effective as it last year because of the obvious reasons, but like playing for the Wranglers this year, early in the season, very effective in that kind of retrieval forecheck role. He was very effective in that role tonight. Look at that. Like, I love that second goal. He scored so much. Yeah. The first goal was good too. I love that second goal so much because the smallest guy on the ice for your team, the smallest guy by a country mile, and he's making his living around the blue paint. He is dwarfed by the goalie, the defenseman, the linesman. Every person on the ice is a bigger human being than Jacob Pelletier is.
And it started with that smart play from Kerins below the goal line to just play it up, bank it up the boards to ball. Ball gets that good shot, and Pelletier's right there for it.
He gets position on the D-man and parks himself and says, all right, I can beat you in a battle for this puck in this area. And he did it.
And then Coronado was right there for 1-2. I think the goal actually went to Backlund for his 9th. In the end, he got his blade on it, but Coronado was making such nice moves. Like, he went through like 4 different Blackhawks, just taking his time, wheeling and dealing, using those edges, and he got
and that
Jones kind of kicked it to him in the end, but he was there in the dirty areas to hack away at it.
That give and go on the Coronado goal too, or the Backlund goal. Like, we're at the point now. We're not used on this program to having so many Calgary Flames goals to discuss in this detail. So please forgive us for these diversions, but my good, like, I don't know which goal was the prettiest goal they scored, because you have the shorthanded 2-on-1, you have the give and go with Backlund making such a sneaky good little play.
You have
open
Bean going up directly against Bedard to get his second goal as a Flame.
Yeah, and just finding that quiet area where Bedard's like, oh crap, that's right behind me.
It's hard to catch Bedard flat-footed, but he did it, and it was a yawning cage that he was able to create for himself.
Are there any bad goals in this game? I feel bad for Mrazek, because I don't know what Mrazek, like, the Pelletier goal is inside far post. It's probably the toughest one to stop, because if you're the goalie, you're just hoping you have the angles down. And it was a nice shot, and shot from like kind of a far enough angle that I can see you kind of having some tracking issues with it, but Pelletier rebound, Backlund, the tip on the give and go.
He had one where he kind of banked it off the net, off of Mrazek, and it settled in the blue paint. That was really close to another goal.
Was that Pelletier or was that Coleman?
That was Backlund.
Oh yeah, and Coleman got shoved onto it.
Yeah,
like they could have had like 4 or 5 goals more than they scored. Like, Mrazek, trying his best, did not have a great night because of the gentlemen in red sweaters around him.
But I think of that as like a Dan Vladar kind of loss, where you like he'll got the win, but it was like an 833 save percentage, and then he'll lose with like a 930 something.
Yeah, I think
The
tonight
other, I think
861 from Mrazek.
Chicago probably could have had one more. I was thinking the one where the shot kind of like trickled behind Wolf and he felt it, so he just like flung himself backwards to pull it in. I think this was right after Bedard's goal for his 100th point, and he did the shake weight celebration.
Oh yeah, I know that one.
I'm not going to do that one on.
I do enjoy your term, the use of the term shake weight celebration though, because I know the one you're talking about. Yeah,
you know exactly the one I'm talking about.
I mean, it's we talk about. I think the big storyline in hockey land this year has been, wait, the Calgary Flames are to play those Calgary Flames. In the since Craig Conroy came in, he's basically been a home renovator, just bashing out load-bearing walls and hoping the thing wouldn't collapse. And suddenly, it's nice.
If we're gonna stick with the renovation metaphor, or did you say like or simile, the renovation simile?
Yeah,
it's like he ripped up some ugly ass carpet. Is like, there's hardwood underneath in here.
Yeah. I mean,
why'd they ever cover that up?
Like you put in, and then I don't want to pick on our friends at ESPN because they're lovely people. And when they early in the season, ESPN did their rankings of the goaltending tandems, and they had the Flames 30th, and their rationale was Dan Vladar coming off major hip surgery. Don't know how he's going to be. Completely yeah, I get it. Completely rational. Dustin Wolf played 17 NHL games. Don't know what he is. Yeah, okay. And we all saw Dustin Wolf a year ago. He didn't really get a decent run of games where he knew he was playing on a regular basis and he was an actual NHL player for the end of the season until they shut Vladar down in late March. So really, the sample size of useful games to judge Dustin Wolf's NHL career coming into this year is basically 0, maybe 4. You can maybe give him 4 games when they actually be able to use him the way they want to use him. You can go, okay, that's what we think we got. And he looked good in those 4 games, but it was 4 games. So if you wanted to, the odds makers, ESPN, whoever, the people who doubted the Calgary Flames going, yeah, I don't know. Don't know who the hell these guys are. Take away Mangiapane, who's replacing those goals? Don't know. Taking out Markstrom, who's replacing those games? Guy with a bad hip and a small child who wandered in from a
young whippersnapper.
Yeah, a lost child who wandered in, and we put pads on him and said, "Do your best, kid." And a bunch of guys,
I don't like that analogy.
Pelletier coming off of.
I don't know, like that analogy. He's like the little kid from nice Up banging on your door. He sat there until the last day of the draft in his suit.
That I've never heard a building that empty get so loud too. It was such a fun day. But yeah, like if you were a hardcore degenerate gambler or someone that makes money prognosticating the NHL, I could totally see the rationale for doubting the team because there's so many question marks. But like there was a team with like 25 question marks and 12 have turned out really well, and maybe like 5 have turned out poorly and 10 the jury is still out. That's remarkable. I'm still just flabbergasted that they are where they are. But if you look at how it's unfolded, I mean, yeah, they got goaltending. Yeah, they got some kid like Matt Coronado set up he basically orchestrated a beautiful goal because he was doing that in junior and he was doing that in college. And he's on the backline line because he also quietly became a pretty good shutdown forward in college. And then you can throw him in that situation and he'll be fine. And he can do that.
That's a really good 200-foot line.
Yeah. And that means that you don't need to lean on Kevin Rooney's line so much. That means you can throw Yegor Sharangovich at center and try him out with a couple of guys who had less than 50 NHL games tonight. And that was the best line.
Yeah.
Like but they've so many of these weird little gambles. You're like, oh, I can see why they try that. Let's see what try. Like if it works, great. You look fantastic. If it doesn't work, who cares? The first year of the rebuild, whatever.
And we'll see how it looks in the long term. But, if you and your buddies ever want to get together and have discussions like these over a couple of pops, a couple of snacks, even come hang out with us sometimes, you can come do that at Richmond. Sports live here. It is one of the best neighborhood pubs for sports in Calgary, if not the best. They have 22 big screen TVs. All sports, all the time, volume up, very important. They've got Barn Burner Blonde, 6-shooter Sutter Lager all day, every day at a very special low price. And Coors, all of the Coors on special every Flames game, home or away, $6. In this economy, that goes a long way.
I really like their pizza.
It is really good pizza. Actually, their wings, their dill pickle wings are some of the best dill pickle wings in the city.
I put their menu up against a lot of, well, probably the same most pubs in the city. I think they're definitely a top tier pub, and I'm not just saying that because I live in the area and I frequent the establishment. But yeah, they're a good place to watch sports ball.
Lots of TVs to watch the game on Mondays on Prime. I really liked the Prime broadcast tonight. I love, like, I think the thing I actually love the most about it, weirdly, is the lead up to the game, where it's just atmospheric shots from around the rink, and you can just hear people talking and milling around. I liked seeing it when it was at the Saddle Dome, because it was like kind of seeing all the usual little spots and seeing some people you recognize there. And I've never been to the United Center, so I felt like I was getting a really different look at that.
You should go. You should go. It's a fun building.
I remember once years ago, I read a really good article about what that building was like before Kane and Taves were drafted, and how it was miserable and empty and awful. And it was, the whole thing was just more attendance based than on ice results based, but it talked about how that totally reinvigorated the franchise. And I was like, it would be cool to see what that would look like for some other teams in the NHL. But no, I thought the Prime broadcast was great. Are the cameras just like that much better? Because it just looked so clear.
The thing I really liked, and this is just me being a giant nerd, and I won't apologize for that. They have like the atmospheric in arena clips, and then they took B-roll of both teams playing sewer ball and edited it in. And then they show you the full warm-ups. They showed the full Rory Kerins rookie lap. And then they showed, both teams, warm-ups, strategies and stuff. Like, it was, if you're someone who if the idea of the broadcast is, ideally it should make you feel like you're there. It should bring you into the experience in a way that makes you want to sit down and watch. Amazon's so good at it. They're so good at it. And they're so good. And this is their first year of doing this. This is the worst version of this we're going to see.
And they've actually got some really great people from Calgary who work on those broadcasts, and they get, like, Amazon will fly you anywhere in North America to be at these games and work at these games to make sure that it looks that good. Shout out Ned. Good job on the
during warm-up. Thomas Hickey, during warm-up. This is not the game. Warm-up. During warm-up, Thomas Hickey, who on the Amazon broadcast is the analyst in between the benches, told a story of Thomas Hickey's mother passed away during the summer. So he was back in town, and he told a story about, he ran into Michael back on a coffee shop, and they sort of got to talking, and, he didn't think, he mentioned why he was back in town. Michael, gave his condolences, and they went on their way. And then in November, when the Amazon game that, I think it was a game that the Chicago people were working in Calgary, Thomas Hickey was working it, and Backlund noticed him in between the benches during warm-up and went up to him and had a chat with him. It's about that. Like, the warm-up broadcast had a heartwarming anecdote about Michael Backlund being a good person. That, like, they know hardly a lot of broadcasters just don't do warm-up broadcasts, because I get it. Broadcast time is expensive. You probably have a half a dozen other things you need to broadcast. Amazon does not have that problem because it's all streaming. And so they take advantage of their lack of guardrails on what they can and can't show by showing everything.
We do have to admit, like, the goalposts are different for Amazon and Sportsnet compared to what they can do with the time they have, but Amazon has definitely made the most of it, and it's a treat for fans to watch.
Yeah, it's very good. And I think there's things that Sportsnet should steal from Amazon unabashedly, because it'll make the broadcast better. And I think there's things that Amazon probably will learn after the season and go, ooh, we should tweak that. So I'm excited. Competition makes everyone better. And I think we're seeing some new things done by the different broadcasts. And I think it's going to make a better product for the fans going forward. And yeah, shout out to Amazon. You guys are doing a good job. And so far, you haven't lost any of my packages this year. And I appreciate that.
Actually, yeah, I think I have a pretty good track record with that too. I don't use it very much, though, I gotta say. I still think of it as, I remember when it was just books.
I remember when Netflix was DVDs you got in the mail.
Do you know that Blockbuster had a chance to buy Netflix?
Yes, and they said no.
And they said no twice.
Hey, all I know is the horse and buggy will never go out of business.
There's always money in the banana stand. So we had a great game for fans to watch tonight. We're going to take a look at what's ahead here. So back-to-back tomorrow. Expect Vladar in net against the St. Louis Blues after Wolf started. Was that 4 straight?
I think it was.
I believe so. Yeah, longest stretch this season. So 6 o'clock Mountain start tomorrow. St. Louis 5-4-1 in their last 10. 5 points now behind Calgary. Bunch of ankle biters. Blues snuck by Calgary in OT at the Dome in early December. Pelletier actually scored his first goal of the season in that game. Vladar had that .833 save percentage. I feel like we've said that exact number a couple of times. I think it's like when people say, think of a number from 1 to 10, and you'll always say 7. Whatever. But then rematch against the Blues on Thursday before wrapping up the road trip with a really difficult battle in Winnipeg against the Jets. They're going to face Winnipeg twice this month, both times on the road. Second time is on the 26th. So Winnipeg's still among the class of the league. They're 6-2-2 in their last 10 to lead Central. Hellebuck leads all goalies in everything. But it's going to be interesting because this is the first time these teams are going to see each other since they clashed in October with the undefeated streaks on the line. And that was the 8th straight win for Winnipeg. And that was a game where special teams really let Calgary down. They allowed 2 power play goals and a shorty in a 5-3 loss back then. So interesting to see what things look like against Winnipeg next time around. And then you'll see they'll come back to the Dome for a little tilt against them lowly Sabres. And then the Wild, wrap up road ahead with the Wild. Those are quietly always good games.
and that game against Buffalo is the start of the final 100 regular season games at the Saddle Dome. So
will you sing Danny Boy when they tear it down?
Oh, probably. I think we'll bring a piper in. It'll be a whole thing.
You're bringing a piper, I'll do the fling.
I
used to do Highland dance.
We'll all stand outside, and then someone will go and pull out the one brick that is the load-bearing brick that's holding up the whole building, and then we'll just all watch it sort of topple into itself.
Actually, is there anything you really want to do in the Saddle Dome before anything on the to-do list? The last 100 games?
I can't. I've spent so much time in that building. I can't remember.
I want to walk across the middle once more.
Just make sure you don't drop your phone.
I didn't. I did it once, and I was carrying all my gear, and it was the worst experience of my life. And I was with Beasley. I was doing a story with Beasley, so I'm supposed to walk across with him, and he's so tall, and he's moving so fast, and I was like in tears by the time we got across.
Every time I go across, I'm just worried I'm going to trip over one of the little cord things they have. So every time I just walk super slow and look down at my feet, and I'm like, if I die, this is how it's going to go. I'm just going to run into something because I'm looking at my feet. And this is how I'm going to die. And they'll be like, he died the way he lived, falling off the roof.
I'm still like, every time I'm at the Saddle Dome, once a game, I'll pop over to radio to say hi to whoever in the WHL, say hi to whoever's on radio. I go off the media side. I will walk through the stands around to the other side and back up because I can't go across the middle. If anyone wants to see what it's going to be like when the Saddle Dome goes down, the Washington Capitals used to play in an extremely similar
the old building in Landover.
Yeah, I think it was in 2004. It was demolished, so you can actually YouTube that and see what it looks like when a building that's almost exactly like the Saddle Dome gets blown up.
That building is just not nearly as nice as the Saddle Dome because the Washington Capitals didn't have enough banners to hold up that building. All I know is the 74-75 Capitals, the worst team in NHL history. The California Seals made fun of the Washington Capitals that year.
Yeah, what about them Philadelphia Quakers, though? That's my favorite failed NHL team.
The St. Louis Eagles.
Another good one.
We're into the deep cuts now.
Yeah. I got to pull out my 1970s NHL guide to get through.
The Seattle Metropolitans.
The Vancouver Millionaires who totally have a Stanley Cup. Oh, goodness gracious.
The Arizona. No, that's too mean. It's too soon.
Mike just shed a tear somewhere. Oh, fun stuff coming up. It's finally, I think you were supposed to get chilly enough to play outside again. A little touch warm this week. Be skating in soup if we went outside right now, but Booster Juice, the proud puck partner for the Jasper Pond Hockey Tournament this year, January 23rd to 25th on Lake Mildred. Oilers Nation, Flames Nation, showing up, showing out. Are you going?
I don't know. I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I didn't make the cut this year.
I know. Maybe I'll get a late invite. I did recently learn how to do crossovers on hockey skates. So.
I didn't make the cut okay, the last time I played an organized hockey game, Craig Conroy, it was a charity game. Craig Conroy spent the entire game chirping me. I think his best line was, "Hey Pike, those skates look brand new. I don't think you've ever used them." And they're not brand new, they're old skates, but I hadn't used them in a while, so it cut me to the bone. So Craig Conroy seems like the nicest man in the world, and he usually is, but he also just is a very mean person when he's playing hockey.
He'll cut you to your core with a smile on his face.
He was smiling the entire time. He seemed to be having a blast.
He's quite a gleeful man.
That's a good way to describe it. He's probably in a good mood today.
Yep. There's going to be a lot of fun up there, I think.
And they get to spend some time in St. Louis, the ultra rare back-to-back St. Louis game for the Flames. And I don't think Team Flames Nation in Jasper will have any back-to-back games against the same team, but hopefully they'll be able to go back-to-back with the trophy.
But anyway, it is powered by Booster Juice. You can visit a location today to refuel, refresh, re-energize, or download their new Booster Rewards app to earn, order, and enjoy. I don't know what I would do without Booster Juice. I remember when I lived in Moncton, there was no Booster Juice there at the time. So I would always pitch stories in Fredericton or St. John because they both had a Booster Juice. And I'm like, I will use my per diem. I will go get a Booster Juice and my day will be so good. And then I'll just stay for like a Sea Dogs game after. And that is where I met Jonathan Huberdeau for the first time. 2016, I pitched a story about the Sea Dogs so that I could go to St. John to get a Booster Juice. And then I was like up in the press box, getting ready to do some interviews afterward. And Jonathan Huberdeau just walks in. I have a picture of it.
At that point.
And I was there, I'm like, do you want to do an interview? And he's like, sure.
How old was his son, Jacob, at that point?
No. He was not in the queue yet.
Oh.
No, I think he was in the queue the next season. He would have been U18 still, I believe. This was when Smallman was the captain of St. John that year. So this is like Joe Valeno, Matthew Joseph, Thomas Chabot, Boko Imama.
Wasn't Joe Valeno a exceptional status?
He sure was. First in the queue.
I mean, he's no Landon Dupont.
Landon Dupont is destroying everybody. Everett is destroying everybody. Oh, if anyone wants to watch some hockey on Wednesday, our free game this week is the Spokane Chiefs and Kelowna Rockets. Ooh. Andrew Crystal had 7 points on Saturday. Berkeley Catton had 7 points.
I was going to say Crystal and Catton sounds pretty good. And what, the week after, it's Everett and Spokane?
Yeah.
I'm on the website. Oh,
that one's going to be like the Spokane Everett one is those are the top two teams in the US division. They got a lot of weapons.
There's a lot of
for the draft fans. Carter Bear is a really good one to look out for on Everett. Your boy Eric
Jameson, who's battling Axel Hurtig for the best plus minus amongst Flames prospects. And yes, when defensemen who are shutdown guys have a high plus minus, then it's an okay stat to brag about. But only then.
I think it's an okay one as a general reference. It won't make or break somebody, but it gives you an idea. But yeah, Andrew Crystal against his former team on Wednesday. YouTube free hockey. Yay. But it is the back-to-back. Let's take a look at what Bet365 has for us tomorrow, as always.
Well, folks,
Code Nation.
Our assumption is two things. One, Boom and I are doing the game tomorrow, so it'll be an overtime or a shootout game, and we apologize in advance. But at least it's an early game. It's a 6 o'clock start. And probably Danville Darnett, and probably kind of a weird game. It's St. Louis. St. Louis has not been playing great lately.
If I was betting, I always bet on Jake Neighbors getting points against his hometown team. I think that's just always the safest bet.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of shot props. I don't think the world has figured out that Matt Coronado just generates a ton of volume. So I think that's probably a nice bet. I think they have some nice props if you're looking for points or multi-point games. This is going to be a game where, because it's Dan Vladar, the Flames will be a little bit worse defensively. it's going to be his Peter Mrazek game where I think he's playing well despite the guys in front of him, and Vladar will do his best. It's just Dan Vladar plays all the scheduled losses, and he loses a lot of scheduled losses because they're scheduled losses. I'm pretty sure if we took out the scheduled losses from his numbers, they would look decent. But he's the second best goalie on a team that's in a playoff spot, so you got to play him at some point.
Absolutely. You'd be hurting yourself if you didn't. Anyway, that's a look at what's on tap tomorrow with Bet365, world's largest sports betting platform. You can open an account today and bet on a huge range of markets. I'll say it for the third time today. Code Nation. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, never ordinary at Bet365. Anything else you wanted to touch on before we take a look at some thoughts, questions, and concerns?
Landon Dupont is plus 23. That's a still good for him. Good for him. Mm-hmm. How old is he? Can he rent a car? Can he get into the movies on his own yet, or is he still too young?
I remember saying this at the start of the season. He was doing a get to know you interview with a broadcaster, and he's like, "When you're alone in the car, what kind of song are you singing to yourself?" I'm like, "He can't drive himself yet."
Landon Dupont has 43 points in the Western League, and he does not turn 16 until May. He is an actual child, and he has scored more in the Western League than 85, 90% of the league. That's astonishing. Good for him. Good for him.
We'll see if Crystal can get by him next week. That's going to be a really, really fun game.
For
Everett's
free.
been around. Everett's been around. Yeah, for free. Yeah, Everett's been around for 2 decades. Of course, the Wolf year is huge. His mom is still a huge fixture around the team there.
Did you see?
They've never missed the playoffs.
Did you see the video from the mom's trip? If you spend any time on Flames social media, if ever tweeted about the Flames in your life and mentioned Dustin Wolf, Michelle Wolf has probably liked one of your tweets. She's that kind of mom, and I love that energy.
I love those parents so much.
She did an interview with Flames TV during the mom's trip, the unfortunately truncated mom's trip, and she made friendship bracelets for all the moms on the mom's trip, themed to their child, so they knew whose parent they were, or whose sibling, whose parent, whose loved one. It's peak mom energy, and Michelle Wolf is a treasure and has to be protected because nothing bad is ever allowed to happen to Michelle Wolf and the Everett Silvertips by extension. I think Michelle Wolf is bringing good vibes to the Everett Silvertips. Is she the reason why they're having this monster season? I don't know that she's not.
That was at a pair of lovely people. Two of the rink staff got married during the first game of the season. They had the ceremony earlier in the day, and they both worked the game in dress and tux. And they met through hockey.
Is there a video of this? Because we need to find this point.
Go to WHL.ca. I wrote an article about it.
Okay, I have to watch that now.
Thoughts, questions, and concerns. What do we have?
And these better be as pure as that last anecdote.
Yeah, from Brady at the Dome. What's your go-to game time food and drink? I love Caesarville. I go dill pickle Caesar.
If I'm working the game, I usually just get a cup of dessert and go upstairs and work during warm-up. That's my go-to. If I'm attending the game as a non-media member, I really liked the Angry Chicken last year or two since they brought it in. The popcorn chicken is just delightful. Ooh. Yeah, I'm a purist. I love pocket dogs too, but the Angry Chicken has gotten into my heart lately.
Never had a pocket dog.
I'll
add it to my Saddle Dome to-do list.
You gotta add to your bucket list before you go.
Yeah. All right. What else we have? Also, sound off on yours. I feel like I haven't actually explored the food that much at the Saddle Dome. Tell us what to get down there. Pike and Cami, who is the number 1 player you want the Flames to sign this year? Rasmus Anderson. Done. Bye.
Yeah, you stole mine. And they already signed Pahal. I'm gonna say Coronado. I don't think there's many bad answers in this. They have a bunch of the young kids they could sign. Pelletier, I think, will get taken care of nicely if he keeps playing this way because
I don't think he's going to be passing through waivers again.
There's 31 teams that are just looking at what he's doing these days and going, "Ooh, let's fire our pro scouts."
Mm-hmm. Sign Ball, number 14, Magic. He's done really well since coming here. I have no complaints about his game. I think he's done more than what's been asked of him.
Agreed.
What do they do with all the bread cores from the buns of pocket dogs? Asking the questions that matter.
That's a good question. There's a bunch of hungry feral dogs behind the Saddle Dome. I have no idea. That's just me guessing.
The only wildlife I've seen around the Saddle Dome is Oilers fans. Just kidding.
In the spring, because it's near, it's right beside the river, hence the flooding. They have gigantic geese.
I hate that.
Yeah, for a while, like the security actually had to shoo the geese away from the back gate so that the media could get in.
You couldn't pay me to do that. That's terrifying.
Yeah, because they're gigantic. Like geese the size of medium-sized or large dogs. They're gigantic. The cobra chicken.
They're so mean. Like when I lived in Regina, I used to run around Wascana Lake, and there was one spot where all the geese lived, and I would like take out my headphones and I, again, like almost in tears trying to get through all these geese. I thought I was gonna die.
Yeah, the
geese suck. Look up the Prince Albert Raiders Cobra Chicken jerseys because they're hilarious.
The greatest jersey.
Max Hildebrand, their goalie, he won the first time they wore those jerseys, and his celebration was like the chicken flap all the way from the crease to the bench.
Yeah.
Saw a flock of geese bully a beaver once. Believe it. I believe it.
Geese are dicks.
Yeah, awful. All right, next question. What will it take for Wolf to win the Calder? Just keep doing what you're doing, man. I don't think anyone other than Lane Hudson can really challenge him. But if the Flames, especially if the Flames make the playoffs, I don't think it's a question. First goalie Calder winner since Steve Mason, no?
The body of work, I think it's going to be a challenge. I mean, we've seen a lot of Hudson, and he's been very good because Montreal's blue line is kind of a shambles at various points of the season. Celebrini is one of a handful of reasons to watch San Jose. And, I think the challenge is how many voters are staying up till 10 o'clock Eastern to watch San Jose games. I don't know, sometimes. So I think that's a challenge. But I think the nice thing is, I think the more Wolf plays in big games against teams that are in playoff spots, I think it'll help him. The fact that he had that game where he outdueled Shesterkin, that will probably help him. I think those are the kind of
shout
games.
out the reigning champions.
I think those are the types of games that he needs to have more of. But he's always going to be hurt by the fact he's a goalie and doesn't play 82.
It's a great argument to keep having, though. All right, I think we got two more here, and then we'll shut her down. Do you agree with Retro that the Flames should trade for some scoring earlier to help them get into playoffs instead of waiting till trade deadline before it is too late? I think we've typically seen the Flames go a little earlier in recent years past with very mixed results.
If you say to me they should be doing a rental, I say under no circumstances should you do a rental. If you're saying to me they should try to add someone with term that fits into their age structure, if the price is right, I don't see the downside of it. They got oodles of cap space, but
so what age range are you looking at then?
25 and under. You're not trying to solve problems for this year. This is their 2015. If you have, I'd say if there's people, if someone gives you an offer for whatever the Glen Cross equivalent is this year, ship them out. If you have to move your hypothetical Barrichello equivalent, ship them out. This is not the year that you're going to burn the boats and try to prove something. This is the year you're going to keep building. And I think the biggest challenge I think the Flames had in, the previous regime was seeing the results and not, mistaking the results for a good process. The process is going the right direction and the results are too, but I don't think you can say, oh, this is the year they're going to make a run. This is the year they set up for future runs. So that's the mindset they have to have.
Excellent. All right. Last one. From DC, do the Flames try to keep Vladar as a backup next year? I think it's been good to ease Wolf into the number one role. Totally agree about easing Wolf in here. I don't want to see him coming in playing Jacob Markstrom type starts because, oh boy, that was a conversation every market he's been in. I think it depends. Like if people are knocking and offering, you've got to hear him out.
Yeah, I think the Flames have a price in mind for every player on their team. And if you meet their price, they'll hear you out. And if you don't meet their price, they will have the phone call be very short. And so, I think they really like Vladar. I think there's also right now a gigantic developmental value in having the Wranglers be a wagon and go on a run. And if you have the choice between maybe getting like a 5th round pick for Vladar and having the Wranglers implode because they don't have goaltending that they need, and keeping him here and having them go on a run and having, Honzik play an extra 25 playoff games. I think they'd rather have the young guys get the reps and keep Vladar. But at the same time, it's a tough situation because
I don't know what it looks like when I guess if we still kind of qualify Wolf as easing into the NHL, I don't know what it would look like easing in two guys at the same time.
Yeah,
Granted, Cooley does have some experience.
And like even for next, if you keep Vladar and think about re-signing him, with the numbers he has, I don't think he'll be terribly expensive. And as you've seen, I'm going to obviously apples and oranges a bit, but Ryan Lomberg is a guy who's paid almost as much for vibes as he is for goals and assists. And if you have a backup goalie, the other show that has Jamie McLennan on very regularly, Jamie McLennan would be the first one to admit that Jamie McLennan was not one of the 50, 60 best goalies in pro hockey, but he was such a good fit for that role that he was constantly employed. Curtis McElhenney, another distinguished 6th round selection of the Calgary Flames, an 0-2 pick, a Colorado college kid who played and won 2 Stanley Cups. He probably was not one of the 60 best goalies during his entire NHL career, but he was constantly employed as a backup because he was so damn good in the role, and he got his role, and he was so good. He busted his ass the 15 to 20 times he played, and he was the right guy. And so if you think Dan Vladar is the right guy, you probably have a number in mind for what you'd be willing to pay.
And if that number's not too expensive, you could almost consider it like a built-in to what you're doing with Wolf.
If you have a backup goalie who by the numbers is slightly overpaid, but he allows Wolf to be Wolf, that's the price you got to pay. So I'm very glad, aside from his prodigious hockey talent, I'm very glad I'm not Craig Conroy, because these are the kind of decisions I'm very glad I don't have to make. And, these are the kind of decisions that seem on the surface kind of marginal and kind of unimportant, but the difference between having Wolf have the right guy with him and not might be a playoff round or two down the road. So, we'll see. I know that's a very long non-answer. The long answer is it depends.
Yeah, but I know I see Jerry here. I agree with a lot of the stuff that you say, not this one. Maybe Wolf's easing in was the time in the AHL. It's so different. Yeah. It is just so different. Sometimes I feel like the AHL sometimes is about, early in the season at least, sometimes teaching young guys how to defend at the pro level. And even the speed from the A to the NHL is just so different. It's the styles, it's the systems. You're not going up against Connor McDavid in the AHL.
Yeah.
So they're definitely not the easing in.
And again, it's sort of apples and oranges, but think about how tentative Coronado looked in his first 10, 15 games in the NHL level to how damn good he looks now. I think you kind of need, for a lot of positions, goaltending is obviously a weird one, but for a lot of positions, you kind of need to go to the NHL, get the doors blown off in a game or two to learn those lessons about things you can't get away with in the NHL. Yeah. And then you come back and you have much more of an awareness of what you can and can't do. It's so rare. I think only the truly special talents, Johnny Gaudreau being one of them, that can just jump into pro hockey and figure it out right away without having that easing period. There's maybe a handful of guys I could think that had the smarts and the intangibles to do it. And not to say that, a lot of these guys aren't smart, but it's a completely different animal from any other level, even the AHL. So I think, it's, and Devin Cooley has 6 National Hockey League games to his credit in a very bad San Jose team that had a team that played like defense was a suggestion that, I don't know, maybe we'll get to it. So he had some tough nights. So I don't really know what he is. And I think that's a big challenge.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us tonight. Huge win for the Flames in Chicago. 5 to the final on season series sweep on Rory Kerins night. Jacob Pelletier, 3-point night, 2 goals, a sweet assist. Thanks so much for hanging out, everybody. Barn Burner back tomorrow, and you're on Afterburner. You're doing the back-to-backs.
I'm doing the back-to-back, the road back-to-back, and it's me and Boom. So again, it'll be like a 12-round shootout loss for the Flames because it's a back-to-back, and Boom games always go the extra distance. So pack a lunch. Boom, 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 boom.
We're going to leave it there. Have a good night, everybody.